you ask a child, like, what's something that you value? They could be, I value my family, I value electricity, maybe I value Wi-Fi, I value clean water because I can
Fortnite.
shower, right? Roblox, like,
Yeah.
right? But those the family and outside of people, those things that, Fortnite or Roblox or Xbox or whatever, that requires some type of cost associated, right? Like it costs money to do those
Mm-hmm.
different things. And so when I share like, oh, my family is actually working hard to supply me these things, to afford this lifestyle for me. And then
Yeah.
usually children probably ages like probably in grades first through fifth, they get it. They're like, it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Like I see my family working hard. It makes sense.
What's up? What's up, my FY Fly folks out there? How y'all doing? I hope y'all doing all right. Welcome to the FY Fly podcast. My name is Hassan Thomas, aka the kid that did and the man that can, baby. And today we're gonna be chopping it up with speaker, author, and the founder of the Wealth Playground, Miss Jasmine Paul. How are you? How are you?
Hi, Hassan. Thanks so much for having me on the FYI Fly podcast. Thank you so much. I'm excited to
You
be
already
here.
know. You already know. This is actually the second time we've had Jasmine on. She was a part of our FinCon money panel, our FinCon Gen Z money panel, but she was so good. She was so fly. We said we got to bring you back for the solo.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And what we like to do on FY Fly is we skip the fluff and we get right into the good stuff. So the first thing that I want to know, for you personally, were you always good with money, or was there like a turning point in your life where you were like, okay, now it's time for me to get right?
Yeah, no, I was not always good with money. So when I got to college, I was attending a private school in North Carolina. I had an ROTC scholarship, but it wasn't enough.
Okay.
So I had to like pay for my room and board or figure out how I was going to fund my room and board. And so my senior year, Hassan, I was like buying shoes on like this website for like $200. Did not have like, I was not making a lot of money, so I was
What was that
buying
from?
like
You had that
$200
refund check and you were splurging, or what?
No.
What happened?
I had 3 jobs in college, Hassan.
Wow.
So I was in ROTC. I was a cadet for ROTC. I was in a sorority. I was doing like this door-to-door like tutoring program that I was like selling these services. And I still could not like manage the money because it just felt like there was just so much expenses. And it was partly because I wanted stuff. Like I wanted to look nice. And so I would spend all this money on junk. Like I would be in class like, oh y'all, the shoes are about to drop. I gotta go and get these shoes real quick. And my friends would be like, where are you getting this money? So my senior year, I ran out of money. I didn't have enough for like rent, utilities, or anything like that. So I ended up sleeping on my friends' couches and in my car because I couldn't manage money. And mind you, I was like a college athlete. Like I knew like how to be responsible, but for some reason in that area of financial management, I just couldn't figure it out. And I didn't ask for help. And
So
once
we have to dive
sorry.
deeper into that. We have to
Yeah.
dive deeper into that because I think that's a lot of people. We know what to do, but for some reason we choose not to. So if you could
Yeah.
jump back into that to that college, Jasmine, but with the brain that you have now, why do you think, was it just we don't care at that age, or what do you think it is?
I don't think it was I didn't care. I think it was I didn't know the right questions to ask. Because I do think that when you are in a situation of financial illiteracy, sometimes you just don't know where to start, right? And for me, I should have just started with asking responsible adults, hey, I'm struggling to pay my bills. What should I do? You know what I mean? I didn't do that. I thought to myself, well, I know how to work. I have managed to live in my own place before and afford my rent before. I can figure this out. You know what I mean? And so I think part of it was pride. Part of it was I don't want to
Gotcha.
ask anybody for help, and I should have. I should have asked.
And I
Yeah.
want to touch back on what you said about your father when he gave you the card at 12, 13. So what
Yeah.
did your parents directly teach you about money, and what name something or tell us about something that they indirectly taught you about money that you've noticed just from watching them? So give us like two
Mm.
things.
So directly, it was definitely like credit. They were like, you do not spend money that you don't have. So that was like
Mm-hmm.
number one. So that's why
Okay.
when the debit card stopped working, like I couldn't spend anything, there was no
Yeah.
money there. But like they were
Gotcha.
very big. They were very big on like credit and not, taking out loans that you couldn't afford or credit that you couldn't afford. The
Okay.
second thing was with my grandmother. My grandmother is an entrepreneur, has had her business, a seamstress business for the last 40 years or so. And she
Wow.
would take me on her bank runs when she would do deposits and different things like that. And I remember she would balance the checkbook and she would be like, Jasmine, if the checkbook's not balancing, then something's wrong. If you
Mm-hmm.
have,
The
you
math ain't
know,
math it.
the math is not math, then something is up. And
Yeah.
she would always be like, you need to follow the money and trace the money back to so you can fix the error to figure out where the money is or where it isn't or whatever. And so I
Mm-hmm.
remember like her balancing the checkbook. I remember her, talking with the bank teller and having good relationships with the bank. And so yes, I feel like those were like two things directly that they taught me.
So definitely think that's a great learning point for everybody listening. But I want to center the rest of this conversation around teaching kids money, your specialty,
Yeah.
teaching kids about money. And
Yeah.
I know you have multiple children's books. So can you give us like an impactful lesson that you've taught in your books? Don't give all the game because I need people to go tap in with those books and share it with their children. But give
Yeah.
us like an impactful give us like sorry give us give us an impactful lesson that you've dropped in one of your books.
Yeah. So I always go to like what kids can learn without money, without anything. Like if you don't have money, like tangible money at your fingertips, I always go
Yeah,
to value, right? Like
I love
kids
that.
understand value and like things around them. So let's say
Mm-hmm.
it's electricity, right? You ask a child, like, what's something that you value? They could be, I value my family, I value electricity, maybe I value Wi-Fi, I value clean water because I can
Fortnite.
shower, right? Roblox, like,
Yeah.
right? But those the family and outside of people, those things that, Fortnite or Roblox or Xbox or whatever, that requires some type of cost associated, right? Like it costs money to do
Mm-hmm.
those different things. And so what I try to share with them, like you can value all these different things, but sometimes people, your parents or your caregivers, they have to work for it, right? And so it's
Yeah.
it's not like this endless supply of resources coming in. And so when I share like, oh wait, like I can value my parents, I can value my friends, I can also value like education, and they recognize like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my family is actually working hard to supply me these things, to afford this lifestyle for me. And that
Yeah.
usually children probably ages like probably in grades first through fifth, they get it. They're like, it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. Like I see my family working hard, like it makes sense. And like they start having conversations
Mm-hmm.
with their family. And so I always try to go back to value because I think that what we value is so important. It goes so
Yeah.
much further than like the budgeting and investing, because if you don't know what you value, what are you doing this for? Like why are you working?
Facts.
Yeah.
That's
So I try
huge.
to
That's huge, Jasmine.
yeah.
Because, even with my little brother, we talk about, the value exchange. I told him, I said, look, you go hard and you stay into this football thing and you continue working, you stay solid, you're going to have a chance to be the first millionaire in this family. So it's an
Yeah.
exchange. Once you build up that value of being the best football player, you're then going to get paid off that value. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Good
I,
time.
I want
Good
to
time.
I want to know from you, how early should we start teaching kids about money? Like, You said 1 through 5th. Have you, dove down into kindergarten? Like, how early should we start teaching them?
I think it depends on the child and it depends on the parenting style. So psychologists have
Mm-hmm.
said that kids can learn about money as early as the age of 5, and they have their financial habits set by the age of 13. And so I
Okay.
think that it depends on the development of the child. I've seen 4-year olds read my book and them save $300 towards a digital camera that they wanted to buy. And they were 4.
It's
um,
crazy.
so I've seen, 9 and 8-year-olds also be transformed by just reading this. It clicks, it's simple, it's engaging, and then they're like, "Oh, I want to do more." And so I think it just
Yeah.
depends on the child, it depends on the parenting style, but I think it's never too early to start talking about money. And it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be like money from a standpoint of dollars and, cents and coins. It could
Yeah,
be it could be wants versus needs. I think that's like the first lesson, because when a
for
child goes
sure.
to a store or they go to, an aisle where there's tons of cereal or candy, they're grabbing for things. Like they're like, "Oh, I want this. I want this. I mommy, let's get this. Daddy, let's get this." But you probably as a parent, not you Hassan, but other parents out there, they're probably like, "Well, no, we're not going to get this because that's not on the list, or we don't need this right
Mm-hmm.
now." And so sharing wants versus needs is like, to me, one of the first lessons that a child can learn, because
Yeah.
they're learning, okay, there's certain things that is necessary for our family to function. And then there's certain
Mm-hmm.
things that maybe we don't need at this moment, but we could potentially get in the future.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how transparent, how open would you say parents nowadays? Because back then, as we know, parents weren't as transparent. Parents were, hey, kid, you stay in the kid's place. This is adult talk. But things are different now. So, in your opinion, how
Yeah.
transparent should parents be with their children about the finances and what's going on, what's coming in, what's going out? Kind of
Mhm.
elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think again, it's dependent on the family. I don't think that kids should be privy to everything that's going on. I do think that
Okay.
kids should not know, all of the details, right? Unless you're a family who decides to share that. I don't think there should be unnecessary like worry or burden on a child. But I do think
Gotcha.
it's important to include children in the conversation of budgeting. Like if you have a family budget, I do think, having the child present while you are paying bills or while you're going over, what you spent this month. I do think that's important. If you have a
Mm-hmm.
goal of saving money, maybe you need to do a car repair or a house repair, or you want to go to Disney World, or you want to
Yeah.
go on your next family vacation. I do think having children present in the moment of that goal and then seeing the progress towards that goal, I think is incredible, because now they're invested in this goal as a family. I do think that as a child gets older, middle school, probably late middle school into high school, I definitely think
Yeah.
sharing about money mistakes is critical. Sharing about a
So
money
they can
mistake
avoid
that
it.
absolutely, whether it's credit cards,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's medical debt, maybe it was like I had a recent story of someone who was like in a like they're like the multi-level marketing groups, and how
Oh
they
yeah.
spent yeah, they spent a ton of money. And so I think having those conversations and showing up as like, I made this mistake, and then asking what would you do differently, asking the child what would they do differently and what you learned from that situation, I think it's something that could be super powerful and impactful.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. One thing that I wish my parents would have told me is explain to me the why, but also explaining to me the pro and the con of not doing that positive financial action.
Oh
Because
yeah.
sometimes the big pro, the big payoff is not enough to get us moving or to do right.
Right.
But if you tell us the downfall and the negative piece, we like, oh, I don't want to be living paycheck to paycheck. I don't want to be able not to
Ah,
afford things that I want. I don't want to be able to when an emergency comes up and I don't have any money, I don't want to have to stress over that. So kind of
Mm,
telling them the mistakes, as you mentioned, the negative parts of not doing that responsible financial action is huge.
yeah,
And it may actually create more change.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I think just to give people some practical game, I'm huge on practicality. So if somebody was starting, they had a young, I know you said it depends on the child's, maturity and all those different things. So let's just say we have a 6, 7 year old. The first step you said is to really talk about those wants and needs. The second
Right.
step would be to talk about value. What would you say, in your opinion, is the third step to teaching your kid about money? Where would you go from there?
I would say six, it depends on the child, but definitely coin identification, money identification.
Yeah,
So
yeah. A lot of
what,
people don't. My little brother and little sister said people in his class, he's in fifth grade. He said people in his class don't know the penny, the dime. They don't know how much it's worth and all those different things. I was like, wow.
yeah, yes. And I think that's huge because even though we're going into like a digital space, we have digital accounts and all those different things, we still have cash, we still have dollars, bills and all those different things. And so I definitely
Mm-hmm.
think kids understanding the value of each and knowing how to identify each, but also that is going to relate to the cost of things, right? If kids don't understand how much things cost because they don't understand money identification, like
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense. Like they're going to think there's like this endless amount of money in the world, and that's not, I mean, for some people that's the case, but for most
Mm-hmm.
Americans there is like, you have a budget, right? And you stick within the budget. So I definitely think coin
Mm-hmm.
identification, money identification, and then applying that money identification. So let's say, Jasmine has $20. What can Jasmine use with this $20? What can she buy? How can she invest? So can she save part of it, right? Can she give part of it? And then can she use part of it to spend on herself or her expenses? I think it's a great way to start.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. Giving that attentionality to your money so they can have that, as we mentioned, have that why behind the reason that they're saving or,
Absolutely.
potentially investing and things of that nature. So I think you've dropped a
Absolutely.
lot of great gems today. And we can't have you on the FY Fly podcast and not ask our famous final question. So, Jasmine,
Yeah.
I'm going to say two quotes and I need you to let me know which one is more accurate in your opinion. All right.
Mm, okay.
All
Yes.
right, all right. So the first one is more money, more problems. Shout out to Biggie. And the second one is money can't buy happiness. Which one do you agree with most?
Money can't buy happiness. I would agree. Man, I feel like we talked about this. I feel like there's a little truth in both, but then there's also some untruth in both too. So
Break it down for us.
I would say I'm leaning towards money can't buy happiness because I do think that's within, right? Happiness and joy has to come from within. Now, I do think that
hmm
money can buy convenience and can buy like resources that will help you experience a level of peace and less stress. But I don't
Yeah.
think that money in itself can buy happiness because I just feel like that's within. Like if you are broken within, $1 million, while on it might help $1 million by itself. Now $1 million and then therapy would be great, right? But if you don't heal
Yeah.
within from within, like I personally don't think money can like truly buy happiness. I don't know. Did
Oh,
I
and
answer the question?
yeah, yeah. So you
Okay.
so you believe that money can't buy happiness is the most accurate statement out of those two, and
Yeah.
I can agree with that because I agree with your statement of it's the joy. It's the internal joy. So that money, once you get that, it's only gonna bring what's already in you. So if you're
Yeah.
selfish, then it's gonna bring that selfishness out of you.
Yep.
If you're,
Yeah.
generous, now you're gonna start giving more because you have more.
Right.
So I
Yes,
think that's a
yes.
great point that you mentioned. And I knew this was going to be great. I really do thank you so much for joining the FY Fly podcast again.
Thank
So if you
you.
have any final words, any final takeaways, go ahead. And also let them know where
Yeah.
to reach you.
Absolutely. I would just encourage, I know like Hazan has incredible followers and people that have been transformed with their finances. But for those that are listening that might have not listened in the past, I would just encourage you to keep learning, keep absorbing, but also don't be afraid to like take a chance and to take a risk. Now, be calculated in those risks. Make sure that you weigh out the pros and cons. You talk to someone who's a reliable and responsible person that can help you. But I will say this, there's such an opportunity to grow wealth, to build wealth, and then also to reach that next generation. And I think it just takes one of us, a few of us taking those steps forward into doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
to reach me, I'm available on thewealthplayground.com. You can sign up for my free newsletter on there. I have like free insights that I share every week. And also, the Wealth Playground series is available. I'm going to just show it a little bit. The Wealth
Yes,
Playground
ma'am.
series is
Yes, ma'am.
available online. It's
I
also
love it.
available on Amazon and where books are available. And I want all of us to just be empowered to have healthy money conversations.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And thank you for all of your gems that you drop here today. Thank you for your stories, your authenticity, and also for our listeners. We talked about a lot of gems here today, but I promise you, if you can take one or two gems that we've learned here today and apply them today, I promise you they will have large results over time. So
Yeah,
thank you again,
absolutely.
Jasmine. All my listeners, y'all already know what time it is. We need y'all to stay safe, stay invested, and stay FY fly. We'll see y'all next week.
I love it.